You'd think when your wife invites the entire street over for a backyard barbecue, it's a team effort. A let's do this together kind of thing. Nope, not in our case. We had just moved in the week before. A nice corner lot in a quiet cul-de-sac. Melissa had insisted we throw something small to introduce ourselves properly. I figured a case of beer and a smile would do the trick. She, apparently, envisioned something between a lifestyle blog and a dating app. We spent the morning setting up. Chairs, string lights, that stupid Bluetooth speaker that only plays at full volume or not at all. I grilled, she mingled, and I mean mingled. I first noticed it while flipping burgers. She was supposed to be helping with drinks. Instead, she was on the other side of the yard, laughing a little too hard, standing a little too close. With Brett. Brett lives across the street. Widowed, early 40s, built like a guy who jogs shirtless for attention. The kind of man who pretends to be humble while flexing as he picks up a lawn chair. Melissa practically drifted toward him like a balloon caught in a breeze. Within 5 minutes of mingling, she was touching his arm, leaning in, full eye contact, the kind of body language that makes you wonder if your wedding ring turned invisible. I was talking to a couple from the next block when I glanced over and saw her, hand on Brett's forearm, head thrown back in theatrical laughter, her body angled like a sunflower toward the source of validation. I stared for a second, then flipped a burger. A few minutes later, I walked over with a bottle of water. "Thought you might need this," I said, handing it to her. She took it without making eye contact. "Thanks," she muttered, already turning back to Brett. Then, with a vague flick of her hand, "This is my husband." No name, no context, no pride. Just my husband. Like she was pointing out a piece of patio furniture someone left too close to the edge. Brett gave me a nod. I gave him one back, half polite, half clinical. Just a man making mental notes. They kept chatting like I wasn't there. She laughed, he flexed, she giggled. I watched, quiet, focused. When I tried to join the conversation, Melissa cut me off mid-sentence. When I commented on the music, she said, "You always have something to say." When I mentioned checking on the food, she rolled her eyes. "It's fine. You don't have to micromanage everything." Noted. I walked off, stood by the grill, and started cleaning up plates that didn't need cleaning, just to keep my hands busy. By sundown, the party had mellowed out. Most people were lounging with drinks. Kids were running around. Melissa? Still glued to Brett like he was the guest of honor. I walked over, calm and quiet. "Hey," I said. "I think I'm going to head inside soon. Got a long day tomorrow." She blinked at me, confused. "What?" "We just started relaxing. Why don't you go grab another drink or, I don't know, talk to someone?" "I'd rather talk to my wife." Her whole face shifted, smile gone, eyes sharp. "Look," she said, loud enough for Brett and everyone nearby to hear. "I'm just being friendly. If you can't handle that, the gate's right there." She pointed toward the side gate of our own backyard. And here's the funny part. She thought I wouldn't. She thought I'd sulk, or apologize, or maybe go pout by the cooler. Instead, I looked at the gate, then at her, then back at the gate. "You know what?" I said, pulling the keys from my pocket. "You're absolutely right." I walked out, through the gate, down the driveway, got into my truck, started the engine. Behind me I heard, "Wait, where are you going?" But I didn't look back. She told me the door was right there, so I used it. The drive wasn't long, a few blocks, no destination, just enough distance to breathe. I didn't have a plan when I walked out of my own backyard, past the hedges and out the side gate. I just needed to leave, and make it clear I meant it. I drove around the neighborhood, let the truck idle in a parking lot for a while, grabbed a beer from the gas station cooler I didn't really want, just to have something cold in my hand, just to feel still. After about an hour, I circled back. By then, the string lights in our backyard were dimming, and the music had stopped. The last few neighbors were probably being ushered out with awkward smiles and forced small talk. I parked and walked back in through the front door. Quiet. No laughter, no Brett, no audience, just the scent of barbecue smoke lingering in the air, and a silence that felt more honest than anything I'd heard all day. I dropped my keys on the kitchen counter, grabbed a real beer from the fridge, and sat down at the island. Calm. She hadn't noticed I was back yet, or maybe she had and didn't know what to do with it. Either way, I wasn't in a rush to find out. I'd been sitting there for maybe 20 minutes when I heard the back door close. She was inside now. I didn't get up, didn't ask how the rest of her networking event went, didn't ask if Brett made it home safe. Instead, I sipped my beer and waited. Then came the footsteps. Fast, angry, wooden heels on tile. She entered the kitchen like a hurricane in designer sandals. "There you are," she snapped. "What the hell was that?" I didn't answer right away, just took another sip, set the bottle down on the counter like I had all the time in the world. "You told me the door was right there," I said flatly. "So I used it." Her eyes widened, like she couldn't believe I had the audacity to take her at her word. "That's not what I meant, and you know it. Maybe don't say things you don't mean in front of a dozen people." "You embarrassed me," she hissed. "I had to tell them you weren't feeling well, that you got dizzy or some crap like that. You could have told them the truth, that you pointed to the gate and told me to leave." She stared at me for a second, not because she was ashamed, but because she was calculating, running PR damage control in her head. "That makes me look like a bad wife," she finally said. I let out the smallest laugh, just enough for her to hear the contempt. "Melissa, you spent the afternoon glued to another man, introduced me like a delivery guy, and rolled your eyes every time I spoke. But sure, I'm the problem. I wasn't glued to anyone, I was socializing." "With your hand on his bicep?" "It was a joke." "Was it?" She paused, then exhaled hard through her nose, the universal sign of an incoming victim narrative. "You know what?" she said, voice softening with professional precision. This isn't healthy. You getting this jealous, this insecure, over nothing. Jealousy usually comes when your spouse pretends you don't exist while hanging on the arm of a neighbor. You're twisting everything." "Am I?" She crossed her arms. "You need to talk to someone," she said. "Seriously, a therapist maybe. Someone to help you unpack where all this insecurity is coming from." There it was, the pivot from flirting wife to therapist wife, from gaslighter to concerned caretaker. I stood up, walked to the fridge, opened it even though I didn't want another beer, just to give myself a reason to look away from her performance. "You ever hear yourself?" I asked. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I mean the way you twist reality into a version where you're the poor, misunderstood wife, and I'm the emotionally unstable lunatic who dared to object." She scoffed. "You're so dramatic. I was having a conversation, that's all." I shut the fridge, turned around, leaned on the counter. "You introduced Brett by name," I said. "Talked about his career, his house, his gym, his life. You gestured vaguely in my direction and said, 'That's my husband,' like I was a chair or a hedge." "I didn't say it like that." "You did!" Her lips curled inward, silent, calculating again. When she realized I wasn't going to let her rewrite the scene, she pivoted to stage 2 of her strategy. Mobilize the allies. She grabbed her phone, walked into the living room, and dialed. I stayed where I was. No need to follow. I could hear every word. "Hey, yeah, it's bad," she whispered, perfectly rehearsed. He completely overreacted. Walked out in the middle of the barbecue. I was just talking to Brett, being friendly, and he lost it. A pause. "No, I wasn't flirting. He's just so insecure lately. I don't know what to do." I could tell it was her sister. Melissa uses a different tone with everyone, and her "my sister will back me no matter what" tone is a classic. I leaned on the doorway and listened to her rewrite the past 2 hours like she was dictating a Lifetime movie. Eventually, I walked upstairs, let her have her calls, Let her play her part. Let her warn the neighbors, the family group chat, the women's wine circle. I wasn't going to compete with her version of events. I had the real one, and I wasn't interested in debate. The first call came the next morning. I was in the garage, reorganizing a perfectly organized toolbox. Not because it needed it, but because the act of sorting bolts by size is better than sorting through what's left of your marriage. My phone rang. Unknown number. Normally I'd ignore it. This time I answered. Hello? Hey, it's Dave. Her brother-in-law. Married to her sister. A guy who once argued that gas station sushi was underrated, so, not exactly a philosopher. Hey Dave, I said, already regretting it. Listen man, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but Melissa called my wife this morning. She's pretty upset. Of course she is. She said you guys had a fight. Something about you getting jealous over a conversation? I stared at a wrench, let the silence grow heavy. She told you I got jealous because she was talking to someone, right? Yeah? Did she mention that she flirted with the neighbor all evening, ignored me in my own backyard, and then told me the door was right there? Long pause. The kind of pause where even Dave realized he stepped in something deeper than expected. I mean, she said she was just being friendly. Dave, I said flatly, let me ask you something. Okay. If your wife spent 3 hours flirting with another man in front of everyone, introduced you like a stranger, then told you to leave when you brought it up, what would you do? That's different. How? He didn't answer. I let him squirm a bit, then said, exactly. I'm just trying to help, man. Then help by staying out of it. I hung up. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time it was her father. Didn't even wait for me to say hello. We need to talk, he barked. About what? About how you're treating my daughter. I set the wrench down with deliberate calm. How am I treating your daughter? She called me crying. Said you embarrassed her in front of your new neighbors. Said you're giving her the silent treatment now. I'm not giving her the silent treatment, I replied. I'm just not interested in hearing why I'm supposed to be okay with her hanging on the neighbor's arm like a prom date. She was being professional. In a halter top, touching his chest and giggling at everything he says. She's always been social. You knew that when you married her. There it was, that classic line. She's always been like this. Translation. It's not wrong if she's consistent. Her personality, I said slowly, is not a free pass to disrespect her marriage. You're being dramatic. No, I said. I'm being clear. She disrespected me in front of our entire neighborhood and then tried to gaslight me into thinking I imagined it. She said she pointed to the gate because she was frustrated. She didn't mean for you to actually leave. Then she shouldn't have said it. Silence. Then, maybe you married the wrong woman. I smiled. Maybe I did. The line went quiet. What's that supposed to mean? He asked, like I'd just threatened the family bloodline. It means I married someone I thought valued respect. Turns out I married someone who values attention. And right now, she's getting plenty. You better think real hard about what you're saying, he warned. I already did. I've been thinking harder than anyone else in this family, apparently. Then I hung up. Didn't wait for the next threat, lecture, or guilt trip. Just turned my phone off and went back to organizing tools that didn't need organizing. Because unlike Melissa, I don't need an audience to process my emotions. That evening, after the calls had stopped and the tools were back in their drawers, I stepped inside. No raised voices, no slammed doors, no, we need to talk, waiting for me in the hallway. Just silence, and the faint clicking of a keyboard from the kitchen. I walked in and found Melissa at the table, fully immersed in what looked like a group project for a psychology seminar. A stack of printouts sat beside her. Most had titles like, Rebuilding Trust After Emotional Escalation. Signs your partner has controlling tendencies. How to spot a toxic dynamic in a marriage. She was highlighting sentences. Next to her, a legal pad titled Therapist Options, with bullet points and underlined headers. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, cracked it open, watched her finish a paragraph. She didn't look up. "I found 3 therapists," she said, voice clinical. "All of them specialize in trust repair and emotional regulation." I took a sip. "Sounds like you're shopping for a diagnosis." She glanced at me, annoyed but pretending to be composed. "I'm trying to save our marriage." "By diagnosing me?" "I'm trying to help." I raised an eyebrow. "By Googling how to fix your husband?" She slammed the pen down. "Don't make jokes. This is serious." "Oh, I'm dead serious. Just not sure which part you want me to take more seriously. The part where you flirted with the neighbor for 3 hours? Or the part where I'm apparently the broken one?" "I was not flirting. I've told you that 100 times. And I've told you 100 times. That's not how it looked." She stood up, grabbing one of the highlighted printouts. "This article says excessive jealousy is often rooted in early life trust issues, sometimes tied to abandonment trauma. Do you even realize how you sounded when you stormed out?" I tilted my head. "Do you realize how you sounded when you pointed at the gate and told me to leave my own house? That wasn't serious." "Then why'd you double down when I did?" She threw up her hands. "You're twisting everything." I took another sip of my beer and stayed perfectly still. "No, I'm just refusing to pretend this is normal." "I said I was sorry," she snapped. "No, you didn't," I replied. "You said you were embarrassed, that I overreacted, and that I need therapy. That's not an apology. That's a smokescreen." She exhaled hard. "You want me to just say it? Fine. Maybe I was a little too friendly." "There it is again." I set the bottle down. "Maybe, a little, too friendly." "Okay, fine. I flirted. Is that what you want to hear?" I want you to understand why that matters." She paused, arms crossed, not ready to concede, but out of breath. I stepped closer. Calm, steady. "Your intentions don't matter anymore," I said quietly. "Your actions do." She blinked. "You're trying to salvage this marriage by acting like I'm paranoid," I continued. "Like my boundaries are the problem. Like your behavior is just misunderstood." I just didn't think. That's exactly the issue. You didn't think about me. Not when you were laughing at every dumb thing Brett said. Not when you introduced me like a guest. Not when you pointed to the gate and told me to go. She didn't respond. I leaned back slightly, let the silence hang. "You're not trying to fix the marriage," I said. "You're trying to fix the optics, the fallout, the narrative." Her face reddened. "That's not fair. It's not fair that I had to watch my wife become a stranger in our own backyard while everyone else watched with me. Why are you being so cold?" "Because I've been burned." That shut her up for a moment. Then came the last weapon in her playbook, the ultimatum. "If you want this marriage to work," she said sharply, "then you need to come to counseling with me. Otherwise, I don't see a path forward." I nodded once. "Then maybe there isn't one." She blinked. "Wait, what?" "I'm not going to therapy to fix problems I didn't create. I'm not going to sit in a room while you explain to a stranger why I'm too sensitive for wanting basic respect." "So that's it?" "You said it yourself. You don't see a path forward. I'm just agreeing with you." She stared at me like I'd just ripped the floor out from under her. "What do you mean? Maybe there isn't one." I stayed quiet, let her fill the silence with panic. "You can't be serious," she said, stepping forward. "I'm offering a way to fix this. I'm trying. Doesn't that matter? You're offering therapy on the condition that I admit to problems I don't have. I'm offering to work through this, together." I nodded slowly. "But only if I agree it's all my fault." She flinched, not visibly, just a flicker in her eyes. But I caught it. "You're twisting this," she said, quieter now. "I just want us to be okay again." "You mean you want me to go back to pretending?" "No," she started, but I cut her off. "You didn't make a mistake, Melissa. You made a choice. A clear, intentional choice." She blinked. "I didn't. You chose to flirt with Brett for hours. You chose to ignore me. You chose to mock me in front of people. And when I calmly told you I didn't like it, you pointed to the gate. That wasn't a slip of the tongue. That was a test. Her lip trembled. And when I walked through it, instead of owning it, you launched a PR campaign. You didn't come to me. You went to your sister, your father, your brother-in-law. You painted me as the jealous, unstable husband. That wasn't a reaction. That was a strategy. I was scared, she whispered. You were exposed, I corrected. She wiped her face, now trembling. Please don't do this. We can work through it. I'll stop talking to him. I won't even wave if I see him in the street. Just don't give up on us. I looked at her for a long moment, and for a second, I felt that familiar pull, the old reflex to de-escalate, to repair, to give her the benefit of the doubt. But it passed, because I finally saw her clearly. She didn't want me. She wanted the version of me who would accept crumbs and call it loyalty. I'm not giving up, I said. I'm just done pretending this is a partnership. Is this really worth throwing away our marriage? She asked, now crying. 5 years? You threw it away when you stopped being my wife and started being someone else's audience. I made a mistake. No, I said, voice like ice. You made a choice, and when I called you out, you made another one. You told me to leave. You meant it, and I listened. She turned away, tears falling hard now. Please, she whispered. I'll do better, I promise. Just don't go. I walked toward the stairs. She didn't follow this time. Where are you going? She asked, voice cracking. To pack a few things, I said without turning around. I'll be staying somewhere else while we figure out the details. What details? Divorce. Her sob hit like a gut punch. You can't just leave. I turned to face her one last time. You told me the door was right there. Then I walked upstairs, and for the first time in a long time, I felt clean. I spent the next 3 nights at my brother's place. He didn't ask questions, just tossed me a spare key and a cold beer and said, let me know if you need the couch longer. Melissa, on the other hand, was not so chill. The messages started the moment I walked out. This is insane. You're overreacting. Please come home. I talked to a lawyer. Do you know how much this is going to cost us? I'm willing to go to counseling. We can both work on our issues. By the second day, the voicemails shifted in tone, from righteous anger to shaky desperation. I didn't mean it, okay? I'll block Brett. I won't even say hi if I see him again. I love you. Don't throw this away. I didn't respond, not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing left to say. On the 3rd day, she showed up at my office. My assistant buzzed me. Your wife's here. She says it's urgent. Of course she does. Send her in. She walked in like she hadn't slept. Dark circles under her eyes, hair tied back in a loose, bitter knot, wrinkled blouse. She looked human, maybe for the first time in years. She didn't wait to be invited. Sat down across from my desk like we were at a negotiation table. We need to talk, she said. We did talk, I replied. You threatened to leave me unless I agreed I was broken. I wasn't threatening. I was desperate. You were bluffing, and now you're mad that I called it. She leaned forward. I know I messed up. I know I handled it all wrong. But throwing away our marriage over one night. This isn't about one night, I said, cutting her off. It's about a pattern, who you are, and who you expect me to be. She shook her head. I don't understand. You expect me to be the kind of husband who watches you flirt with other men, who stays silent so you can feel admired, who apologizes when you disrespect him. That's not fair. It's accurate. I never meant to make you feel like that. But you did. And when I told you, you didn't stop. You pointed to the gate. I was angry. And now you're scared. She went quiet, then said softly, I love you. I know, I said. But love isn't enough. Of course it is. Respect is. She looked stunned, like no one had ever said that to her before. I can't be married to someone who only loves me when it's convenient, who only apologizes when I leave, who only reflects when she's losing. I'll do better. I swear I shook my head. Calm. Final. You don't miss me. You miss control. You don't respect me. You just hate being left. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't want anyone else, she whispered. But you didn't want me either, not really. You wanted someone to orbit around you, not stand beside you. Silence. She looked at the floor, then back at me. I'm not signing anything. You don't have to, I said. I'll file and serve you. You can fight it if you want. But it won't change anything. You're really doing this? I already did it, when I walked through the gate you pointed at. She didn't sign right away. At first, she tried to stall, a delay disguised as space to think. But space doesn't work when the damage is done in silence, and time doesn't heal what someone refuses to admit. I didn't chase, didn't follow up, didn't remind her. I let her sit with it, the same way I had to sit with her hand on another man's arm, her laughter in my face, her smirk as she pointed toward the gate like it was a joke. A few days passed, then a week. I kept living, went to work, answered emails, ate dinners alone without feeling lonely for the first time in months. I slept better than I had in years. And slowly, her silence became louder than anything she had said. No more texts, no more voicemails, no more begging or bargaining, just absence. Then, 2 weeks after that final conversation in my office, a courier envelope arrived at my brother's house. Inside, the signed divorce papers. No note, no apology, no dramatic last words. Just her name, written carefully, like she wanted it to still mean something. It didn't. I didn't celebrate. There was no champagne, no wild night out, no declaration of freedom on social media. Because this wasn't triumph. This was recovery. It wasn't about winning. It was about remembering who I had been before I started compromising with disrespect. I still pass the neighbor sometimes, Brett, when I visit that side of town. He doesn't make eye contact, doesn't wave, just nods quickly and disappears into his garage. Maybe something happened between them, maybe not, doesn't matter. She had already broken the deal long before he came into the picture, because betrayal doesn't always begin in bed sheets. Sometimes it starts with the look your spouse gives someone else, the look they use to save only for you. People ask sometimes, friends, former neighbors. One even DM'd me a few weeks ago. Hey, I heard about you and Melissa. I thought you guys were solid. What happened? I gave the same answer I always do now. She pointed at the gate. So I used it. And that's all anyone needs to know, because the truth is simple. She didn't expect me to walk away. She expected me to beg. She expected me to crawl, to play my part, to swallow the insult for the sake of her image. But that version of me is gone. The one who tolerated half love, half truths, and half apologies. And in his place? A man who finally learned that love means nothing without respect. Who understood, too late maybe, but finally, that staying with someone who needs to be reminded how to treat you isn't loyalty, it's self-abandonment. She thought I'd never leave, because I'd stayed so long, because I made excuses, because I always came back, until I didn't. And now? She's free to be friendly with whoever she wants, but she'll never again have a husband who quietly fades into the background just to protect her comfort. I don't know what she tells people now. Maybe I'm the jealous ex. Maybe I'm the unstable one. Maybe I'm the guy who couldn't handle a strong woman. Let her spin it however she needs. I'm done correcting her version of the story, because I've got my own. And mine ends like this. She pointed to the gate like it was a dare. I took it like a map, and I never looked back.